Welcome back, YouTube. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the likelihood of us getting a fourth stimulus. Now, this is in due mostly because of we've seen a lot of reports like with the Nancy Pelosi, even Joe Biden himself saying that government spending is not the cause of inflation. And technically the theory behind the initial stimulus payments were, the American people, they weren't responsible. It's not their fault that the pandemic happened, and because of safety and the economy and stuff like that, we should be able to kind of like help them out with the stimulus package to kind of just relieve some of the stress and the burden that has been placed on the back of the American people economically. Whether you want to blame supply chain issues or government spending, whatever the case may be for this inflation, especially with gas prices, should this warrant another stimulus check? And before I get into that, I want to get into kind of like the microeconomics and the macroeconomics a little bit here, because I do disagree with a lot of at least the angle that's being pushed by the government. To back up my original statement, I'm going to play a clip here of Joe Biden stating that inflation is not the cause by pretty much the government spending, but it's caused by pretty much Putin and the issues that's going on with Russia and Ukraine.
Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I love, the Republicans saying it's Biden's gas pipeline. I'm sick of this stuff. We have to talk about it because the American people think the reason for inflation is government spending more money. Simply not true.
So pretty much the angle that we're seeing here is that the result of most of this inflation, or what started the inflation, is because of the supply chain issues. Now, we could get into the fact, okay, well, who caused the supply chain issues and stuff like that, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to say, okay, well, outside of the supply chain issues, because that is one effect of it. But when we look at the increase in supply of currency that we've had over the past few years, we can see, just based off of mathematical numbers here, that this is also a big contributing factor to inflation. And historically, it has been. When you pretty much double the entire currency that exists, or you have a massive expansion of currency, it doesn't have to necessarily double the entire currency, but just a massive expansion, that currency has to be absorbed. Our currency needs to be fluid. It doesn't sit idle. This is one of the reasons why we have runaway inflation. Well, I guess you can call it inflation or prices with education, runaway inflation or prices with our healthcare, runaway inflation and prices with real estate, stuff like that. Like, the money has to be attached to something. This is why we have the main indicator for our country to be, okay, well, how much debt people are getting in. Are they taking out new mortgages? People aren't buying new mortgages. Oh my God, it's threatening a recession. This is why, literally, if we're not getting into debt, we go into a recession. The Dave Ramsey approach would not work in America. If everyone paid off their debt and lived below their means and stuff like that, we would crash the economy immediately. That's not how our system is set up. We must be in debt technically for it to work, because of the massive amounts of currency that exist. So when you increase the overall supply of currency and people aren't taking that debt on, or people are saving the money or simply just investing it into the market here, this causes an issue when they aren't necessarily spending the money and taking on the debt or the surplus that's in the circulation. The second point I want to bring up is, if we did do some type of fourth stimulus for whatever reason, supply chain, gas prices, whatever, that is going to expand the currency further. So what we see here now is they have the 0.25% interest rate hike that's coming out this week. And we also see that inflation for the fourth month in a row is now increasing. So when we say, okay, well, we already have record inflation, haven't seen anything like this in 50 years. We haven't seen anything like the currency printing we've been doing in the last 50 years either, but I digress. We'll say, okay, well, if we hand out another stimulus, how likely is this to further perpetuate inflation? And it's highly likely, because we haven't got the initial inflation under control. So if we say, okay, we're going to get another $400, $600, $1,200, whatever, that is going to be billions and billions of dollars that we're technically going to create, that's going to get put into circulation, that we're going to necessarily have to literally be absorbed by the overall economy. Even though they're saying that's not the reason for inflation, I don't believe anyone is stupid enough to suggest doing that again, because despite what people say, I do believe they know better. So I don't believe this is on the table to receive more stimulus for these reasons. Not to mention that they're also cutting QE from the bond market and mortgage-backed securities this month as well. So if anyone were to get more stimulus money, it would probably be the markets to help them, I guess, make this adjustment or just a slower wean off, because initially they were doing 120 billion a month, and then they started weaning it off by $30 billion up until March now. And supposedly we're going to quit it cold turkey here in a few days. We're going to see. So I'm not saying there won't be another stimulus package, but if there is, it'll probably be for the markets. So with that being said, we are heading into our 5th month of record inflation. And if we're looking at Putin or Russia and Ukraine and stuff like that, and again, I try not to get into politics and stuff on there, but when you talk about finances, they typically overlap. But we have to take into effect that Putin, the Russia, Ukraine situation overall has happened, and it's been less than 30 days. So that we've had inflation since last year, really, the end of last year. So this is not primarily because of that situation. Now, it may escalate it, absolutely, but we were headed in this direction overall anyways. When you have inflation and it's being tricky and stuff like that in the market, you're going to have to find ways to navigate that. You can simply do that by increasing your income or utilizing some skills and stuff that you have in order to reinvest that into the market, or simply use it to replace some of the money that you're losing due to the inflation. My sponsor for this video, Skillshare, is going to show you exactly how you can do that. So here's a word from Skillshare.
Skillshare is an online community that hosts thousands of classes where you can learn new skills, deepen your existing passions, or simply fall down a creative rabbit hole. They offer classes like finances, entrepreneurship, and even stock investing. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing it up to you, because I think that most of the community can find this actually useful. I'm actually starting with Productivity for Creators by Thomas Frank, because it's more so about me starting to build and get more organized through my productivity, because of the growth that I'm seeing here on YouTube and like my actual investments that I have outside of YouTube. So it's just more so laying the groundwork so that I'm not being pulled in so many directions. And as I try to expand my investments, because typically that's what takes up most of my time. And I know a lot of you guys get on me about not uploading every day, so that I'm working to increase my productivity so that I can be more present on YouTube and balance my outside investments. The best thing about Skillshare is it's curated specifically for learning. There's no ads, so you're not going to see a break or in any of the classes that you take that are specific to your interests. So it's pretty much just going to be go from start to finish. Now, I wanted to provide exceptional value for you all. So the first 1,000 people that click the link in my bio, you actually get a free month of Skillshare to try out. And again, they have classes on just about everything. I know most of the people that watch my channel are geared toward finances, so you can certainly take classes on stock investing, finances, entrepreneurship, web development. Really, this pretty much, if you have an interest, it's almost guaranteed to be on Skillshare, and you can have access to that for 1 month just to try it out by using the link that I have in my bio. Feel free to check it out and let me know what you think.
So I think that the likelihood of us getting a fourth stimulus, at least at this moment, is very slim to none. And I also think that it will probably do more harm than good. So I think that as far as for the rate hikes, I do believe we're going to have to come out a little stronger than what we have been. And I do believe that we're going to need to do a better job at letting the market run its natural cycle versus perpetuating it to go on this upward trajectory all the time, because that really leads to unhealthy situations, and it pretty much just prolongs the inevitable and makes the crash a lot harder, because you're falling from a lot higher altitude than you otherwise would have been. But if you found value in this video, hit the like button, share the video with a friend. By all means, subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more from me. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And until next time.